Stream looks solid. Should get a notification that Zoom has gone live on YouTube. I'll give that a second. Make sure I hit the mute button so we don't have a bunch of, there we go, extra sound. And we will move on to the main one, which is Facebook for us. Make sure that works. And we are live. So I will say hello to everyone. My name is Sean. Everybody should know me by now. That darkness down there is Bobby. He's
I'm waving
in the dark today, but we can still hear him. So that's what's important. So when we crop all this out in the beginning of the audio only podcast, it'll sound nice and clean and nobody will know Bobby. But today we have the honor of talking to our own friend and colleague, and most recently when I met you, Chase, you were pretty much undefeated for thousands of years in the college tennis world. So if nobody's heard of you from that point, you probably moved into a less public role almost in the universal tennis world. So Chase, I appreciate you making time, and if you don't mind, give us a quick introduction. We put your bio in the show notes. Everybody can find that, but a quick little, hey, I'm Chase, and really be here kind of thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely, Sean and Bobby. Appreciate you having me on. Obviously, appreciate all that you guys are doing for tennis in the Atlanta area and beyond. In terms of my background, really been a college tennis coach for about 25 years at numerous different universities throughout the country. Last stop was Georgia Gwinnett, where I was there for 10 years and, had a great experience there at Georgia Gwinnett. And recently, well, not too recent, but, about a year and 3 months ago, transitioned into this role as vice president of Universal Tennis, and super excited about this current role and really utilizing all my prior knowledge, not only as a coach, but obviously, Sean, we had worked together as a business owner of Gwinnett Tennis in the past, and really just using my experience to help Universal Tennis and all the missions that we have, not only here in the Atlanta area, but globally, all over the world. So thanks for having me on, and look forward to the discussion today.
Yeah, we'll jump into the main reason. I think I used the phrase earlier that I baited you into coming in, but I looked at my wife the other day. I'm like, I got to get Chase. I know how to do it. I've got the clip where we're talking about the player segments. I said, she's like, not yet. Let's get some time. But you've been Universal Tennis over a year now.
Yeah, it's been over a year. It's about 15 months, and Sean and Bobby, I feel like I've been with the company for, over a decade in terms of running events. Really was running countless events, UTR events in the Atlanta area. UTR Atlanta is something that's, you have events literally every weekend in the city or greater metro area. So being a provider of events was really where I got started with Universal Tennis. And then obviously from a recruitment standpoint, in terms of utilizing the rating as the gold standard in terms of bringing players in internationally and domestically, that was where Universal Tennis was started from the rating. Now we've morphed into Universal Tennis. As a business, we're not known as UTR anymore. However, a lot of people still see us in that light, but we ventured into having our own pro tour, which we're in close to 30 countries now. That entire pro tour is streamed on Amazon Prime. We have flex leagues, we have junior circuits, we have 96% of college coaches on our platform in terms of using it as a recruitment measure and having their digital clubs and digital pages set up. We've become a big player in the camp space. We're the number 2 provider on college campuses for college camps. And, those are just a few of the things out there. And then obviously just trying to be as innovative and creative as possible and bringing new ideas to the marketplace. Some of the things that we've done is putting on Pepperdine and Southern Cal at the BMP, We initiated an NIT national championship. We announced in March we had this idea. We brought it to life in May. That was on Amazon Prime. We picked 8 teams on the men, 8 on the women that were selected for the NCAA and had our own national championship. So, just doing a zillion things like that in the market. We just announced UTRP, which is a pickleball rating. We're becoming a force in the pickleball arena. APP just announced us as the official rating for pickleball in the high school space from a tennis standpoint. NFHS just announced us as the official rating for the National Federation of High Schools all across the country. And we have 27 states currently that are under recommendation or mandate to use UTR. So I won't go. That's enough for now, but I mean, I could keep going in terms of things that we're doing, but it is vast, but it's exciting and challenging. And, I can say it's, I have going to work every day, with my laptop being a remote company. We're based in Silicon Valley, having the opportunity to work remote and as a company and, work with my peers and create these ideas and do things that are going to help the tennis ecosystem is ultimately what we want to do. And obviously you guys with GoTennis are supportive of all tennis initiatives and certainly appreciate your support of Universal Tennis.
We do. We love it. And I was thinking, Bobby and I were talking the other day, we were thinking about you in that role. And I thought, oh man, Universal Tennis has just got that, we're going to take over the world mentality. And I had a question. Bobby and I were talking about this earlier, and it was a really interesting question because he said, "Well, are we going to ask about the Universal Tennis origin story?" And it made me realize, I wonder if, and I don't know if you have the answer. I would guess it would have been on your entrance when you were filling out the forms for taking the job. But the origin story, did Universal Tennis feel like they were fulfilling a need with UTR, that they were failures elsewhere, or was it, hey, we've got a way to just do this better, let's just go ahead and do it? Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think that, obviously Dave Howe in 2008, Virginia Beach, basically the rating in terms of from a founding standpoint, I think the initial idea, Bobby and Sean, was an opportunity to, help make tennis better from a rating standpoint in terms of college recruitment. When you really think about UTR, it was really centered around college recruitment in terms of, being able to establish an algorithm to help college coaches in terms of being able to identify talent, make sure that they're bringing in a player that fits their needs. And that's across all 5 divisions of college tennis: NCAA D1, D2, D3, NAI, and junior college. And, over time, what has happened is, it's become a fabric in terms of the tennis ecosystem, in terms of, just general communication amongst tennis players, in terms of, the rating being paramount in that regard. And, that's something that, really back in 2008, in the beginnings of UTR, I mean, now here we are 15 years later, a lot of people, I don't really see us as a startup anymore. I see us as a fabric in the tennis world. And, I will say to kind of answer your question, the college tennis recruitment aspect is so firmly ingrained with college coaches that, that's something that, we will always attribute our success to as we move into all these different areas that we are doing currently as a business. So
it didn't even exist before, really. I mean, if you're talking about, because Luke Jensen made a comment to us the other day, he said it was a game changer for global recruiting. And that's something Chase Hodges, tennis coach to the gods of college. I mean, you had that global ability to look around and find the best talent and bring them into a little school like GGC, but just to have the resource of that number.
Yeah. Well,
it just didn't even exist before. It wasn't like you were competing with an NTRP or a USTA number.
Right. And to be honest, I will attribute from a recruitment standpoint, being kind of early, a decade ago, really using UTR as the gold standard and as the number one metric. Now it's more, worldwide or accepted amongst college coaches. I think that really helped in terms of getting out of the gate strong at Georgia Gwinnett in terms of
Hodges' secret weapon.
It helped. It's not much of a secret anymore, but at that time it definitely helped because I was able to, quite honestly, not make mistakes. It allowed me not to make any mistakes from a recruitment standpoint. I'm not saying that it's bulletproof or anything like that, but what I am saying is it did help me make sure that the talent that I was bringing in was at the level that I was really hoping it to be at. And, obviously, winning some titles, actually I can attribute back to UTR. And obviously, as Bobby and Sean, once you have the players, and you have the level, then it's a matter of just maintaining it. But it's a lot easier to maintain than to build something from nothing. So, I would say it definitely helped in that regard.
So from a recruiting point of view, back to the original question where Bobby and I were talking on, I don't remember what, episode 5 of the podcast. It's so long ago, it seems, Bobby. You were telling a story of the parent that comes to you and says, my kid's a 4.7. Can he play in college? And the parent's trying to figure out what's going on. But Bobby, you were talking about as a coach being able to have that metric and a goal. Can you talk more, Bobby, about where you were going with that and how that led us to talking about UTR as a helpful tool?
Well, I think the great part of what Chase is saying, and I'd like to know just about the algorithm, because obviously, and Chase, your success proves it, in its infancy was a lot better than a ranking and a coach's eye. That you shook the world up with an NCAA going in and beating Georgia Tech. But he's all of a sudden saying, who is this powerhouse that, is rivaling John Wooden in consecutive championships? So what makes the algorithm of UTR so much better than just which, the ranking system was based on more probably participation than necessarily all wins?
That's a great question. And what makes it phenomenal, in my opinion, is it's about, it's all about the level that you are right now, Bobby and Sean. It doesn't care about, how good you were 2-3 years ago, or even anywhere outside that 12-month window. We're only factoring in results within the last 12 months. So we can start there. It really gives you an idea of where a player is performing at a current time, which would be now, let's say. With that being said, it's factoring in the last 30 results in that 12-month window. So having the ability to really look at those last 30 results within that 12-month window, that's a big body of work in terms of us being able to make sure that this rating is going to be accurate from an algorithm standpoint. And, with that being said, that gives you 100% accuracy in terms of determining the rating. And, one of the things that a lot of people, may not know is, that 30th match will roll off when you play another. So it gives you the ability to keep looking at, how am I currently competing at this moment in time? And, from my end, that's where, one of our biggest strengths is from a timing standpoint, and then the number of matches, and not to mention, in terms of competing, every game counts. So, if Sean and I are playing a very, very competitive match, 6-4, 7-5, whatever it may be, there's this misconception that, if I am, a higher rated player, it doesn't benefit me to play a lower rated player. And that's completely false. I mean, your UTR can move up if you're taking care of business against lower rated players and beating them, 6-2, 6-2 fashion, let's say, you could move up. So regardless of who you're competing against, regardless of their rating, you have an opportunity to move up or potentially move down, because that scoring really comes in where every game counts, every point matters. So you want to be competitive, you want to compete, you want to give it 110% and let the algorithm take care of itself. Last thing I'll say with that, Bobby, is, as a company, in terms of using UTR, I mean, we advise, obviously, we want players to use it as a metric. We want players to use it to promote level-based play. We want players to utilize it in a fashion that, it's getting used in a healthy manner. You're always going to have some players that are just super hyper focused and, kind of overanalyzing things at times. And, I would just stress to those players, let the algorithm, work. It's a black and white algorithm. There's no politics attached to it, and it's proven. We wouldn't still be here talking if it wasn't proven. So, we're going to continue to do whatever we can to help the tennis ecosystem. But to kind of answer your question, that's ultimately what it comes down to.
Well, I think you just brought up a great point in itself, is the misconception about playing, that people don't want to play the lesser player. That, that's a great thing to address, because that is a misconception out there, that I don't want to play the lesser player. It's not going to help my ranking. Not going to help my rating.
You're 100% right. Huge misconception. If I'm a 7.7 and I'm playing, say a 6.2, I still should be highly motivated to play that match, even though the player is 1.5 points below me, simply because I can increase that 7.7 with the convincing win. So, every match, regardless of who you're competing against, you have the ability to do that. So, the more we can, educate parents and players that is a misconception, and the better for the whole community, because the last thing that we want is, players pulling out of events, withdrawing, et cetera, due to the fact that, they don't want to put a rating on the line. That's not what we're about. That's not what tennis needs to be about. And people need to understand that it goes both ways in terms of the rating. It can support the higher player or the lower player, regardless of really any event. I mean, it's one thing, I would like to stress is, we do have right now, so everyone is aware, if you are playing and it's a match and it's 2 points difference, it does not factor into the rating. Just so everyone's aware, we found that that's been in existence for years and years. So if I'm a 5.5, I'm playing an 8.3, that match will not go into the rating. However, Bobby, let's say I get to the point where I move up to, say, a 6.5, that match against the 8.3 will retroactively go into the rating, since I'm within that 2-point window. So I don't want to get too specific into things. Hopefully you guys follow that, but I just wanted to make sure everyone was there. Yep.
Well, I think it's also cool. And again, a great point that you just brought up, the cultural aspect of tennis that is obsessed with always playing the better player. And as a coach, you sit there and say, guys, there's always going to be somebody that, who did Federer practice with? Who did Novak practice with? If you're always looking for a better player. So that misconception of that you need to play a better player in order to improve. No, it's about effort. It's about focus. It's about doing the job required that day. And UTR is not only helping with the ranking, but with, changing the culture, hopefully, of that mentality. If I'm not playing up, I don't want to be there.
Exactly. And as a former coach, when I was looking at results, one of the, if I'm recruiting, say, a 12.2 UTR, for me, a major metric in my brain was, how do they perform against lower rated players? Do they take care of business? What's going on in these matches? Making sure they're not withdrawing, they're not pulling out, they're actually participating, competing. And that's a big part of it. Coaches look at that. So, to your point, I think that all of this is extremely valid.
Chase, I think I'm gonna commission you, and I want the ultimate guide to college recruiting by Chase Hodges.
Yeah.
Right. It probably could be one phrase: use UTR.
Yeah.
Thank you. That'll be $20.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, obviously UTR is a big metric there. I think the majority of college coaches, it's their number one metric. But with that being said, there's got to be a ton of other metrics there. You want to make sure that you're recruiting the right kid, the right player for your culture, the right teammate, the right student athlete, good in the academics, someone that's really looking to graduate college and maybe potentially play professionally, or depending on where your program is, they may have ambitions there. But ultimately, it is a metric, but there's so many different other areas that college coaches need to be looking at when they're recruiting players. And that's something that really goes into place of being able to actually meet them in person, have the opportunity to meet their parents, get an opportunity to meet their coach, do your research, follow up on recommendations on a player. I would encourage coaches all across the country to make sure you're doing your homework, because at the end of the day, most cases you're going to be with these players for 4 years, and you want to make sure that that is going to be a good environment for not only you but for the player. And just being able to promote that culture for me was huge in terms of recruitment. But yeah, UTR was for me, it was the number one metric, 100%.
When you talk a lot about culture, Bobby's the same way. It matters so much. And I think you had enough Spanish speakers on a few of your teams. It was La Familia, right? Was basically the
La Familia. Yeah, La Familia.
Was the concept in creating a family. And Bobby, as he runs Windermere, he's got a culture in a similar way. And you don't really have to buy into it in the same way, because it's not like these people are moving in to live with him for 4 years and really be there every day. But these people live there in the neighborhood. So culture becomes important. And that's probably one thing that UTR might actually help with a little bit, is if I'm taking care of business, as you say, if I'm winning those matches 0-0 that I should be winning, where back in the day, just for fun, we'd nuke some kid 0-0, but we'd put it in as 6-7, 7-6, 7-6, just so it looked like fun on the board. But now you can't just write in scores anymore. So now really getting that culture of, if I'm a college coach and I care about winning and I care about how you win, and are you there, like you said, to compete, or are you going to be nice to a guy and all of a sudden lose the momentum, and then we're in trouble.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you said it. I mean, taking care of business is obviously extremely important. And, that's something that, coaches are going to be looking forward to. And, regardless of, the body of work that we've talked about, it could be one result here, another random result there. The beautiful thing about the algorithm is, we're looking at those last 30 within a 12-month window. So, regardless of, say you had a bad day, 6 months ago an event, you have the opportunity to redeem yourself with your next event. So, just keeping that positive mindset, and in terms of, basically looking at the algorithm as more of an opportunity to better gauge your level. We have this product, it's UTR College Fit, where you have the opportunity to literally just type in your UTR and see every program in the United States that you would be in the top 6 on. So, the reality here, Bobby and Sean, is, when a coach is looking at a player and vice versa, it needs to be some realistic, attitudes here in terms of, based off my UTR, this should be a good college fit. And, I feel like we've been able to crack the code in that regard. And, one last thing that has been valuable, if we have some recruits here, listening, it's always good to use the metric on the statistics on your bio, where you can search and you actually see your best victory. So if your best victory is, let's say you beat a 9.37, but you're sitting there as an 8.29, that victory over a 9.37 could carry a lot of weight in terms of recruitment and looking at schools. So, there's a lot of opportunities there. Yeah, what I'm capable of. Yeah, exactly. So, having the ability to do that, I think, is extremely important. And, as a technology platform, really, we're trying to bring players together. We have pretty much every recruiting agency utilizing the rating in terms of, using it to help their players and coaches kind of bridge that gap and making sure that, they're being placed accordingly. So we'll continue in that regard to provide the best service we can to make that process as good as possible for these players.
That sends me to a question. And Bobby, I was going to let you go next, but something jumped into my head. Is there a negative consequence to me going online and finding out I'm not playing in college, and having that player, like I said, with Bobby's story, where he gets parents coming in saying, my kid's pretty good, can he play? And having that realization where there is empirical evidence you're not going to make it. And in that case, is that a negative? Like everything, all the positives come from some negative. There's always going to be something. Do we have some kids that end up giving up before they normally would because they see that metric and it's just unattainable?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's a great question. And, let me first preface, our rating is not, just for college. I know we're talking a lot about college right now, but, we have recreational players. We have a green dot program, color ball, orange for juniors. We have, our junior circuits in the high school space. state associations are using UTR for seeding. They're using it just for general matches. So, in terms of your rating being helpful outside the college space, 1000% it's there. It can assist in all walks of life. But to specifically answer your question, you're going to find this answer. I don't know about you, Bobby, but I'm going to say something that I think is a lot of people don't know, but I can tell you this with very high level of confidence is there is a college program for every player. And the reason I say that is now it may not be the school that you really is number one on your radar, but when you look at, Division III tennis, Division II, NAIA tennis, junior college tennis, community college tennis, there's scholarships that don't even get utilized some years, where, you have men's and women's programs not able to utilize a full roster. And there's opportunities out there every year for players, really regardless of level, to find an opportunity if that's what they want to do. Now, to your point, Sean, if they're hell bent on going to University of Georgia and they're just simply not good enough, that's another story. It's not going to happen. But if they are willing to look at, a community college, junior college, something to that extent, there's an opportunity there. So that's my viewpoint. I think there's plenty of opportunities. But if it's a situation like you mentioned, where it's a player that really wants to attend somewhere that's just not possible, then yeah, that conversation needs to be had. There's, you have club tennis at those schools, intramural tennis, you can find other needs outside of the college space at maybe a Power 5 type school where you could still be competitive in the tennis space.
Bobby, I think that answer helps you a bit with some of your members.
Well, I also like the wide ranging where we're going, the net that Chase is throwing out there. When would you say that UTR became the focus point for college recruitment? What year would you say that occurred?
I can say when it occurred to me, which was 2013.
And you were early to the game. So I'm looking at UTR saying really post-COVID, where you had a bunch of schools, especially on the male side, getting rid of men's tennis. UTR is really saving tennis because it is providing a metric. It is streamlining the recruitment process, and it's making it more affordable. And I think that, as Chase said, you can continue to play tennis because it's never been a revenue producing sport. So it's always in a precarious position. But UTR has now simplified it through technology, made the process better. And now it's not as expensive to run the program as it used to be either.
That's right. And that's, to your point, I'm glad you mentioned COVID, Bobby, because that's where we experienced our greatest growth.
That would have been my guess, but I wanted you to say it.
Yeah. Well, you guessed accurately. So, during COVID, when really pretty much the tennis world shut down, we were really the only ones out there still having events being played. We eliminate the red tape and the politics in terms of putting events on the platform and in terms of promoting level-based play. The process is extremely easy to run an event. But to your point, that's where really we were able to explode into the market, and we've been able to keep that momentum. As you look at just in general in terms of timeline, in terms of when coaches started using us, or maybe it was after COVID, maybe it was pre-COVID. What really happened was we went into these schools, these high schools, these colleges, and we have hundreds of high schools and close to almost 600 to 700 colleges that are running camps off their digital page, that are running one-day UTR verified match play, that are running weekend camps, and what's happening, or weekend tournaments. And what's happening is, like, our college circuit product, we've run over 100 college circuits across the country on college campuses, and coaches are making millions of dollars. In 2022, coaches made millions of dollars using our platform, giving them an opportunity, whether that money was used to help their program, hire an assistant coach, assist with a budget need, whatever it may be. we're starting to see more and more coaches take advantage of the platform and using it in a way to further support their programs. And, that's where the tech piece comes in. As a coach, you have the ability, Bobby, if I want to run a tournament next weekend, I go on UTR, I set the event up, I publish it, it's done. It's that simple. I'm able to really move quick and be innovative and creative, and I can host whatever event that I want. One of the cool things about our pro tour is that it's unlike any other tour out there. Every player gets at least 3 matches. They may get 5 matches. You have the ability to play an innovative format. Those matches are on Amazon Prime. This is truly preparing players to be pros because they need those matches. It doesn't benefit you, Bobby, to go to California to some pro event and play 1 match and lose, and you're done. Under this format, you get multiple matches stretched out over a week at one location. You're going to be there for a long time. It's guaranteed prize money for every player. And it's turned out to be a huge success. We're almost in 30 countries now. So, with that being said, it opens up the doors to be innovative and creative.
Well, you're reading my mind again, Chase. Is kind of fascinating because that was my next step, was to go in that direction, because as you saw the progression, I love what you guys are doing. Try with your tour. Where do you see it being? Because as a coach, a lot of it is obviously there's a difference between when it's a college as opposed to when it's your job. That progression, the mentality. Where do you see? How long do you think it'll take for the players on that tour to gear up where it's going to be essentially a great building block and a great opportunity for the kids who, like you said, traveling halfway around the world to play 1 match. It's not cost productive, it's not cost efficient. Right. So, where are you guys, what's your timeline where you see you're going to really start putting players that are on your tour are going to start making an impact on the big tours?
Well, we've already seen it. You look at the player, not Ethan Quinn, but the other one who had committed to Georgia. He made that run at the in Newport. I think he made the finals. His name's escaping me. He's from California, but make a long story short, he won a UTR Pro Tour tournament last year. That kind of springboarded him to a position where he is now. You have a player like Taylor Townsend as part of her comeback. She was playing UTR Pro Tour events to get her game back. In the college space, our Pro Tour, we have 1,500 players that are actively college players or former college players that are looking to get into pro tennis. And when you look at our schedule, you're starting to see more and more of these UTR Pro Tour events on campuses all over the country. Next week we're at University of Tennessee, then we're at Baylor, then we're, I think, at Michigan. We're really, Kansas is coming up. We're really positioning ourselves all over the country on college campuses to give these players the opportunity. And, it's exciting to see it grow. And now it's exploding into Europe and Japan and Australia. And, it's continuing to grow. And, we've had phenomenal feedback from the players. And, that's why PTPA, that's Novak Djokovic's players union. They've been a big supporter of UTR and what we're doing, because, we're all about the player, Bobby and Sean. I mean, we want to provide the best experience for these players to help them in their pathway to pro tennis. And, their feedback is vital for our growth. And that's what we want to continue to do, is listen to the players and give them the best product possible.
How do you deal with the current tournaments per se? I mean, I don't think people realize that the majority of tournaments are played on clay courts because they're not here, obviously. And, and people don't realize the preponderance of clay court events there are throughout the world, where, like you said, just what you guys are doing to simplify it. I would think the only people that might not love it are the current tournaments that are out there, trying to maintain their position.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, that's a good point. I mean, and it goes back to, we are disrupting the market in terms of answering your question. We are. But with that being said, we feel that, we're elevating the sport and doing it in a creative and innovative way. So, I do think that, if a player has the option to play, a UTR Pro event or this event, it really is up to that player. If they're looking to, get guaranteed prize money and get multiple matches and be on Amazon Prime, I'd say we're a pretty good option. But with that being said, being on a clay court, which we had plenty of our pro events on clay courts in Europe, whether it's, in France or, it could be in Spain, wherever it may be, England, they have the ability to play our event all over the world. It is based off UTR rating in terms of getting in, but we have seen a lot of players that are very loyal to our tour, and you can see them just going from venue to venue and just following the tour. And when they're ready to have an opportunity to potentially play, say, an ATP Challenger or some type of event like that, we feel like they're going to be better prepared. And ultimately, that's what we want to do, is help prepare them.
So if I'm going to the University of Tennessee next week, how much is it going to cost me as a fan to go watch one of your events?
Free.
Oh, fantastic.
Free. Yeah, it's free. You can walk right in and view that event. I think the one in Knoxville begins Sunday, I want to say. And they run for a week. I'm assuming some University of Tennessee players are in that event. I know Donald Young's in the event, actually, at University of Tennessee. So you're going to see great tennis. You're going to have an opportunity to see an up and coming player, and hopefully, if you're a volunteer fan, you're going to see some players that are going to be competing for your school in the upcoming season. So it's a win-win for everyone involved.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
it's a win-win for the fan too, like you said, to bring your child out, introduce them to tennis, high level tennis, and not feel like you're mortgaging your house. Yeah,
you're not going to be doing that. Yeah. So, I mean, it's, great. Like, say you want to bring your academy out, or, some high school players, high school teams, et cetera. It's a great event, and, you can't miss them. Just go to universaltennis.com, search Pro Tennis Tour, and you see the entire schedule for the year right there.
And I love the free bit. I mean, that just makes a big difference. Chase, you and I were talking about that before we started recording, and I love it. I remember back in, 95, whenever it was, and we were late high school, early, just to go watch the NCAA finals, and happened to be at UGA one year. And some guy that, guys that looked a lot alike named Bob and Mike happened to be playing, and nobody ever heard of them at the time. And it's just so cool to go, hey, we're tennis guys, right? But we're not that good. And then you see where it goes from there to have that access. We're working with a nonprofit right now to take some of the Atlanta kids up to the US Open, and they can't quite, because of school, they can't quite get there for the qualifiers, but the qualifiers, that whole week is free. And the Arthur Ashe Kids Day is free. And I just think that's so good. I'm really glad Universal Tennis is realizing, and maybe you knew that from the beginning, right? That's not what we're about, is charging an entry fee. We want people there. We want that excitement. College kids aren't throwing $50 to watch a tennis match. So we want that atmosphere.
Right. Ultimately, we want to open the door up for anyone to come and watch and be a part of the experience, and, grow the sport. That's ultimately what you guys are doing. And we're trying to do is just grow tennis and continue to make it as great as we can. I mean, that's the beauty is, when we talk about, I'll talk from a universal tennis perspective, Bobby, we're still in the early innings here. We don't see ourselves as being in the late innings here. We're maybe in the, top of the second inning here. So we're just getting
baseball reference, Bobby.
We're
I'm
excited
telling
for the future.
Jason and I were separated at birth, except I'm a lot older.
Yeah. There you go. So we're looking forward to the future.
Well, that is a curiosity of mine. That's what, everything you're saying and everywhere it's leading. And I love the technology term, the disruptive force, because there's going to be a lot of momentum that they're going to have to deal with here in a couple of years.
Yeah. I mean, and ultimately, right now, I mean, we just focus in on ourselves and what we can do better as a company. Obviously, we can always improve. There's things that we can do better, but, one of the best things that I've enjoyed about Universal Tennis from a work standpoint is, we come to work and, we try to create ideas and Some ideas maybe aren't so good, some are great. But with that being said, no idea is bad. And, we want to do anything that we can in the tennis ecosystem to really make our sport better. And, that's something that we're not going to stop doing. And, one of the realities that we have, Bobby and Sean, is we have the ability from a platform to do that. With that being said, our organizers that's our relationships, are really predicated off our organizers on the platform. And, the more innovative and creative organizers that we have globally, then the better for our product and what we're trying to do. But, we're never going to stop being creative. That's for sure.
I like you said you're no longer a startup, but it's a startup mindset, yet still doing what you do. You got it going. Bobby, you got anything else for Chase before I hit him with King of Tennis?
No, I think the Chase, thank you. This has been fabulous.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, guys.
So we always go with my last question. I say mine because I went to Bobby day one. I'm like, I want to ask something interesting every time. And we want to know from anybody who gets tennis, especially tennis in Atlanta, which you're an Atlanta guy now, so we consider you one of our own. And we ask the King of Tennis question, which is, if you are King of Tennis, whether it's just Atlanta, whether it's from a universal tennis point of view, see what I did there?
Yep. There you go.
What would you do? Is there anything you would change or anything you would implement? Is there anything you would do as King of Tennis, Chase?
In the Atlanta area?
Anywhere. If it's just Atlanta, that's fine. Globally, anything.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and it goes back to kind of what we were talking about prior with GoTennis is, I would just try to eliminate the politics as much as humanly possible, because I think that it gets you nowhere as a sport. So, the more that, we can address that and put ourselves in a position where, we have an open market, and we have an ecosystem where providers are able to run their events or tennis academies or clinics, then the better off we're going to be as a sport. So many times red tape gets in the way, and bureaucracy, et cetera, gets in the way, that you start losing sight of what the common good is. Now, I do understand that to some degree that is needed, but the more that we can get away from that mindset, then I think the better off we'll be.
I think that's a great answer. And if I push back a little bit, and we'll cut it out if we have to, but if I push back a little bit and I say, get rid of the politics, and I love that answer, but I always try to look for an example. And I say, okay, everybody says, oh, we want to make it more affordable. Okay, how? We want to make it more accessible. Okay, give me something tangible as to how. So do you have any ideas as to how we remove some of the politics from what we're dealing with?
Yeah, I mean, I think, not to sound cliche, but obviously the more communication that we have with, these organizations, then the better. And putting ourselves in a position where, if you look at, the general landscape of tennis, giving everyone opportunities, whether it's, the junior player, the tennis pro, the high school coach, the college coach, let's find out the best way to connect these players in the general tennis ecosystem, and let's eliminate the barriers, and we can start to see progress. So, it's a matter of just putting the effort in. You got to get your hands dirty a little bit. But with that being said, if you're able to properly connect those channels, then you can have phenomenal success.
And Sean, let me blow UTR's horn a little bit here. And as not an employee, though, I would be more than willing to become an employee. Don't get me wrong. You guys are doing that. You've already proven that by being better. I think the college adaptation, that was not the norm how many years ago, where now it is the norm. And that was just because you guys did your job better and presented a stronger alternative. And that's why I'm curious, where I'd love to see where the tour is going to lead and where that next step takes us, because it's just by being better. And that's why it's exciting, as you said, that you're really in your infancy. You're in a pretty exciting time, and UTR has already proven that it works. They're the shining example of just be better, do what you do, get your hands dirty, give it some time, and you'll see the success. And they're doing that.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Bobby, for that. Appreciate that. And Sean, yeah, I mean, and I can also add, I mean, Bobby, I appreciate the kind words in terms of being better. And, one thing that I could add is, we're only going to get better. Like we realize we can improve too. I think that's a big part of it too, Bobby, is, yeah, we've done a lot for the sport, but can we get better and improve? Absolutely. And I think if you have that mindset, then, greater things are to come, and, we're going to keep pushing away, pushing the envelope, and trying to make things happen, and, get better every day. And that's the mentality that really the employees at Universal Tennis have. And, it's a inspiring, climate to be involved in, to be quite frank with you guys. So we're just going to keep doing it, and, let me know when I can get back on with you guys, and we can talk about more developments down the road.
I
Look forward to that.
down. New tagline: be better.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
There
Be
you go.
better. Well, Chase, Hodges,
There you go.
I really appreciate it. Bobby, as always, we will follow up soon and get you on again. I appreciate your time.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.